So just to set the stage, why don't you tell us a little bit about Navisto, what sort of services it provides in the CSO space, and sort of how it's come about?
Yeah, thanks. Firstly, I'm grateful on behalf of the Navisto team to be here today. Navisto is a platform that is empowering organizations of all shapes and sizes to take action on sustainability. So what does that mean? There's two vectors really. So firstly, efficiency. We're really building in automations and accelerators when it comes to the entire sustainability workflow. So starting from materiality, data collection, data generation, all the way up through reporting. So I don't know how many people in the room has driven an electric vehicle or a self-driving or semi-autonomous vehicle, just for a show of hands. Okay, so maybe in a few years, there'll be some more hands up. But if you can think of, for those who have experienced that, driving an autonomous vehicle, that cognitive alleviation of cognitive load that you experience, that's effectively what we're trying to deliver for sustainability teams so that they can spend a lot more of their energy on action versus the administrative tasks. So that's the efficiency side of things. And then the other pillar is insights. So really ensuring rigor around data quality so you have the right data to take action on, of course, and then on the analytics side of things as well, so you can ultimately translate that data into actionable insights.
Sure. So in terms of getting into the data that's being used, both in terms of building efficiency with your clients and also developing insights, what are the sort of the key metrics, the key pieces of data that your clients are really sort of clamoring after or find that is most useful to them?
Yeah, so it's been evolving quite rapidly. I think ESG or sustainability is starting to come out of its infancy in terms of mass market. So climate was obviously the leading edge, but we have seen, especially with CSRD in Europe, a more broadening of the type of metrics that are being demanded from a regulatory standpoint, and that's CSRD is one across, whether it's the ESG rating methodologies, the data that they're incorporating into their scores, whether it's the investors that are digesting that data. So I think that CSRD is just representative of what's happening more broadly. So that's the first thing I'd say is breadth, just more focus on not just environmental and climate data, but expanding into the S&G pillars, of course. And then the other element is depth. So not just disclosing the explicit data itself, but all the kind of metadata around that. So if we think, coming back to CSRD as a template, you're not just disclosing the data, but you're looking at policies, actions, targets. So it's a little bit of past, present, and future. You have to really be clear on not only what your ambitions are, but how you're going to get there. So it's really forcing organizations to be more pragmatic around, I think if you rewinded to a few years ago, target setting was a little bit of a looser exercise, and now it's not just about setting climate targets, it's really across the board.
Yeah, and then in terms of sort of looking at this from the sort of ESG and also the compliance side, is that still where most of the interest in this data lies, or is it moving more towards mainstreaming the use of ESG and climate data in the business case more widely? Are we seeing it sort of just moving beyond the sort of compliance and reputational concerns into more sort of frontline aspects of the business model?
Yeah, so we use this notion of almost a Maslow's pyramid for sustainability practitioners, and the way it's kind of designed is that bottom sort of survival layer is really the more regulatory responses and kind of those essential activities that sustainability teams are burdened with today. And our mission is to really elevate teams so that they can transcend and move up that pyramid into full integration of the data, industry leadership, whatever their ambitions are. So it is a journey, and organizations are on different stages of that journey. I think some of the big drivers to progress in that kind of transcendence journey is really about, firstly, capital markets. So we spoke a little bit about ESG ratings and investors, but if you look at, firstly, sustainable debt, the trends around issuance of sustainable debt, the attractiveness from a cost of capital standpoint, there are a lot of incentives there to have the ability to deploy that kind of capital, to raise those kind of funds, and you need the data also to support that. On the equity side, similarly, when it comes to assets under management, there's been a lot of growth over the last few years in terms of the capital flowing into those financial products. So from a capital markets standpoint, the train has clearly left the station. There's a lot of motivation there. Another key topic too is materiality. So I think right now, when people hear double materiality, there's a knee-jerk reaction to associate that with CSRD, and naturally it is a key prerequisite of that reporting exercise. But I think it's important to think about materiality, in a way that's much broader than just a regulatory response. I think double materiality can be a great way to really identify those topics, those metrics that are actually going to be meaningful for the business to track, both of course from a direct kind of financial materiality standpoint, but then broader externalities. So yeah, those are a couple angles. I mean, you mentioned reputation, and I think reputation has been one of the early sort of catalysts for consideration. But I mean, still today, I don't think that's going away in terms of motivation. I mean, we saw a study recently that showed that about 35% of global market cap is linked directly to reputation. And so what all this is kind of converging on is, and as a testament kind of to some of these points that have just been shared, we're seeing, this is Verdantix's data point, but about 80% of CEOs are now directly leading or acting as significant contributors to their corporate ESG strategy. So that's just another kind of indication that there is a clear trajectory towards more operationalization of ESG data and just more consideration from an executive standpoint.
Sure. Well, we have about 3 minutes left on the panel, so I want to just open the floor to questions and see if anyone else has anything they'd like to ask Nick about ESG data, the role of the CSO and metrics. Everyone formulates their question. There's one woman in the back there.
Hello. Thank you very much for the presentation, the discussion. My name is Gabi Glesner-Chivalona, and I work in consulting for ESG and sustainability. My question is a little bit, how important are benefits or business cases to be successful to drive a bottom line as a CSO? Because this is something that we encounter very often. Initially, the low-hanging fruits were quite helpful in driving the sustainability agenda a little bit, but now in the meantime, we are moving into the more hard-to-abate sectors or parts of the organization, and the whole business case topic gets more and more difficult.
Yeah, so thanks for the question. I mean, one area that comes to mind, when you talk about decarbonization is resource efficiency. So I think there is a lot of room to align. Obviously, there's a camp that believes sustainability is at odds with the bottom line. Obviously, what we're working towards is a world where we reconcile sustainability ambitions with the bottom line. I think resource efficiency is a key area where you can achieve both when it comes to a topic like decarbonization. I think that now that organizations are starting to measure their non-financial data and do it in a much more granular way, that allows them to identify areas where you can, from coming back to the example of resource efficiency, you can identify those areas where you can simultaneously achieve both those objectives. But I think obviously CFO and the financial arm of organizations are having a lot of influence on sustainability functions as well. So I think it is clearly critical for chief sustainability officers to have a tight working relationship with those functions and ensure that they're always translating that data into some sort of financial business case.
Great. Well, I'm afraid we're out of time, but this has been a very enlightening tour of ESG, the role of it, of how it's evolved in the business case in major corporates, and what a company like Visto can do. So thank you very much for your time, and thank you very much, Nick.